Internet, and welcome to Retroneck Relics, the retro video game show where I give you my 2-bit opinion on these 8 through 32-bit relics. Today, we're putting on our rubber gloves and reaching into one of gaming's most admonished genres.
Don't you love the smell of the sewers in the morning?
That's right, today we're looking at FMV games, a veritable dumpster packed full of ambitious ideas, marred by bad writing, worse acting, and baffling gameplay mechanics. These games rose to prominence with the extra memory afforded by CD technology and were often touted as interactive movies. But they usually lacked in the interactive department, let alone movies. But I'm here to tell you that it wasn't all awful. For every Mad Dog McCree or Night Trap, we had a Mega Race, or my favorite.
So settle down in front of your monitor and get ready for a joyride that's part comedy, part thriller, and 100% drop-dead great entertainment.
Then you can do what you want with Murphy.
Under a Killing Moon, coming to a software outlet near you.
Yes, Under a Killing Moon, developed and published by Access Software and released for MS-DOS in 1994. It is the third game in the Tex Murphy adventure game series, and the first to feature full motion video and leverage free-roaming polygonal 3D environments. Yeah, you heard that right. Textured 3D environments. In 1994. Without raycasting. And all managed on a 386, 486 recommended, without a 3D accelerator.
The air outside feels thick, like I'm breathing through a pair of dirty gym socks. It's a high radiation day. Most everyone will be staying inside, but I need to hunt for some work. I would like to start the day with the traditional PI breakfast. That hits the spot.
Now, as I mentioned before, most FMV games
Murphy,
build
you
themselves
look
as
like hell.
interactive movies. However, in the wake of the FMV movement, the term has really become synonymous with trash.
Oh, kiss me, Rudy, and set my lips on fire.
Okay.
Under a Killing Moon wears the interactive movie label proudly, and, shockingly, actually delivers on that claim. The game's story is a neo-noir detective tale that follows gumshoe Tex Murphy, a down-on-his-luck private eye still reeling from his divorce and in a state of deep depression. Tex receives a wake-up call from his mentor and former colleague, the Colonel, and must navigate a post-World War III San Francisco to find a case to work on.
Probably a case of cheap scotch.
The nuclear fallout from the war has broken humanity up into 2 distinct genetic classes. Mutants, who have been disfigured by the fallout radiation, and norms, who are regular Joes like Tex, who, despite his genes, still lives among the mutants in the ruins of old San Francisco. Now, if the X-Men taught me anything, it's that some norms just won't accept mutants, even cool ones with laser vision. After gathering some intel on the street, Tex lands his first real case in the game, helping the owner of Rook's pawn shop retrieve a stolen diamond bracelet and get a much-needed boost in confidence. The next day, he's hired to find a missing crystal statuette in the shape of a bird, and soon finds himself stumbling into the doomsday plot of the deadly Brotherhood of Purity.
Look, prophecies aren't in my job description, okay? I'm just a humble PI trying to save the world as we know it.
At its core, Under a Killing Moon is a point-and-click adventure game, but unlike its predecessors, Mean Streets and Martian Memorandum, it's played from the first-person perspective, which delivers a great sense of immersion. The controls are unique in that moving the mouse will cause Tex to walk and strafe, while Control, Shift, and the up and down arrow keys make him crouch, stand, and look up and down respectively. FPS fans will likely scratch their heads at this scheme, but it becomes intuitive faster than you'd think. Hitting the spacebar on the middle mouse button switches to the interactive mode, where most of your sleuthing will take place. Almost everything in the world is interactive, with Tex offering up a one-liner for almost every object in the scene.
Some of this devastation came from the Barney the Dinosaur Museum. No one was too upset when it became one of the first structures to get blasted in the war. Everyone refers to this stuff as Barney rubble.
You can rifle through drawers,
As usual, it's a mess.
open and close doors, and collect a variety of items to help you in your quest.
Looks like a key of some kind.
Some objects will even trigger cutscenes, like when you pick up the free basketball from Weenie World and try out a game of One on None.
10 seconds left. Down by 1. Murphy has the ball. He fakes. He drives. It's a 360.
He's fouled.
Hey, wait a minute. That's not the basketball they gave away at Weenie World. It's the March Madness street ball they actually sold at Pizza Hut in 1993. I still have 2 of these things and the special collectible cup. I could never see it when the game was new because, well, I didn't have the recommended 16 megs of RAM to enable the high-res texture mode.
Oh, looks like Mr. Bum is home for the evening.
Ugh, what an elitist. Anyway, the game's interface has these slick pre-rendered button animations that look like they were taken from an old-school tape recorder. Here you can access the game's configuration settings, save, load, browse, and combine items in your inventory, and leverage the game's hint system if you find yourself getting stuck. Now here's a hint for free. If you find yourself stuck, head back to Tex's office. That will usually trigger an event that can unlock the next phase of the story.
You have a fax. You have a fax.
You also have controls that determine how your cursor will interact with the world around you. You can look, get, move, or open things. Except for this door.
Hey, this door's just painted on.
Looking at an item first will trigger a line of dialogue from Tex.
Looks like some kind of in-house television.
And change the cursor to whatever applicable action you have available.
Hi, kids, it's me, Inspector Burns.
You can also skip the commentary by tapping the right mouse button to access the next available action.
Yeah, what do you want?
To progress the story, you'll need to collect information, which comes in the form of newspapers, letters, and, most prominently, conversations.
Well, duh. I guess you forgot. I'm a PI.
Well, you know, Tex, you just might have a chance to show how good a PI you are. Had you heard that Rook's place got robbed?
After dispensing with small talk, you can press the residents of Old and New San Francisco for information, which can unlock more locations to travel to, and more contacts to speak with. When you aren't asking about the list of people and things, the conversation system becomes a bit of a puzzle game, with branching conversation paths similar to what Mass Effect would do years later, offering options that don't state explicitly what Tex will say, so the player can be pleasantly surprised.
Anything good on the tube today?
Uh-huh. I'm watching the Captain Wallaby show, and he's so funny.
I always thought that Captain Wallaby was a pedophile.
You mean he likes to ride bikes? I have a bike.
Choose the wrong option in a discussion, and it can lead Tex to a dead end, which can ultimately lead to just being plain old dead.
No, I didn't forget. PI Rule 17 is don't antagonize an idiot.
That's where you catch a lecture from the late, great James Earl Jones, who voices the great PI in the sky.
I promise I'll do better.
Well, okay.
He also reads some Edgar Allan Poe, which helps set the mood.
No pestilence has ever been so fatal or so hideous. Blood was its avatar and its seal, the redness and horror of blood.
While Under Killing Moon's story centers around a blood cult trying to end humanity as we know it, Tex is basically a comedian who can make light of almost any situation. A real wise guy.
I'll bet this guy loves to be poked in the belly.
One evening, he's horrified to find a dismembered head floating in his water cooler. The next morning,
I tried for an hour to get Pug's head out of the water cooler, but it was no dice. The police showed up and thought about grilling me until they realized Pug was a mutant. And it was like they couldn't care less.
The absurd dark humor mixed with ridiculous inventory items to solve puzzles and Tex's constant caustic wit.
Looks like someone didn't get enough fiber in his breakfast this morning.
Shut up, Murphy.
I will
Make
see
this
you in hell.
really one of the funniest games ever made. Tex is portrayed by Access Software's Chris Jones, who knows when to ham it up, when to play it straight, and how to be a goofball that doesn't come off as an annoying jerk. Unless you want him to.
Can't you find something better to do than bother me?
I was planning on it, but you know I couldn't find your sister or your mom.
Still the wise guy, eh, Murphy? It was great to see you. Now get lost!
Between interviews, searching for clues, and traveling around San Francisco in your fancy speeder,
my trusty 31 lightning bolt speeder. I still regret not getting the sunroof option.
you really do feel like you've stepped into the role of a hard-boiled detective from the 1940s. A man out of time with a soft felt fedora, well-tailored trench coat, and white sneakers. In a flashy future cityscape full of flying cars, mutants, and, fax machines.
Do you have a fax?
Adding to the film noir detective ambiance is the jazzy soundtrack that features some of the best saxophone music you'll ever hear. Check out the New Day theme to get an idea of what I'm talking about. Unlike other adventure games at the time, you won't spend a ton of time pixel hunting, since the developers did a decent job of making inventory items stand out. Though some of the steps you have to go through to collect those items can be counterintuitive, like getting a bald eagle to drop a cigarette case that contains, well, a cigarette. But you'll need that cigarette to rescue a damsel in distress later in the game. There are also other puzzles throughout the experience that add a welcome break from the straightforward adventure game formula and have you breaking into apartments, piecing together and decoding notes, and even bringing a bodacious babe out of stasis, which can be tricky and, without any clues, is going to take you a few tries to complete.
I think I've soiled myself.
So, what do I think? Against all odds, Under a Killing Moon manages to seamlessly combine action, investigative point-and-click gameplay, and cutscenes and conversations into one sleek and engaging experience. Even modern games that audiences would consider interactive movies still don't quite capture the essence of what I think makes an interactive movie work. Tex's later adventures offered more in terms of gameplay and story, but Under a Killing Moon will always remain my favorite in the series for its great sense of humor and mind-blowing technological achievements. Normally, I'm right there with John Carmack when it comes to story in video games.
Here comes a new challenger!
Story in a game is like story in a porn movie. It's expected to be there, but it's not that important.
But this one is too good to not experience for yourself. That's why I'm giving Under a Killing Moon for MS-DOS 9 cans of Campbell's Chunky Chocolate Soup out of 10.
Oh boy, mail.
Here comes a new challenger!
It's time for the Retronick Mailbag, the part of the show where you get to be heard. Here's what you had to say about my review of Splatterhouse 3 for the Sega Genesis. Lucko 2022 helpfully corrects us, saying,
"You are wrong when talking about the first two games. In the first game, Jennifer gets turned into a monster, and you literally kill her. His soul is stuck in the afterlife for 3 months. Thus begins Splatterhouse 2.
Jeez, Tex, you think I know about everything?
Combo Mamba returns to state,
Great video again, highlighting one of the more underrated classics on the Genesis. And now the trilogy is complete. This one always pissed me off because I wanted to get the best ending, which is actually pretty difficult to pull off with all the time constraints. But I love the darker vibe and playstyle compared to the first two games. By the way, Nick, have you seen the Mega Splatterhouse project recently?
I have, and I gotta say, it's pretty dope. And finally, I got a very special piece of physical mail from masterful artist Ray Ray is Happy, who wrote, "Hey Nick, I love your channel and retro games. Keep crushing and stay happy." Ray Ray asked me what game I'd like him to create an illustration of, and he sent me this fetching portrait of Richter from Dracula X The Rondo of Blood for the PC Engine, which will look great with my 16-bit Afghan of Lara from the same game. You can follow Ray Ray to see more of his great work on X with the handle @RayRayIsHappy, or read his comic, Detractor No. 1, at RayRayIsHappy.com.
If you get out of this alive, do me a favor and start getting some regular exercise. And it wouldn't hurt to lay off the smokes and booze for a while either.
As usual, I want to give a major shout out to my friends over at Retro Game Squad, who you've heard from in my review of Street Fighter the movie for the Sega Saturn. You can also hear me on their show from time to time, where I usually weigh in on console games. You can find their show at RetroGameSquad.com or follow them on X with the handle at RetroGameSquad.
You're quite a comedian. Why don't you take your act on the road?
Thank you so much for tuning into RetroNick Relics. If you like this video, please be sure to slap those like and subscribe buttons, and tune in again to find out what I dig up next. I'm Retro Nick.
And you'd be too if you were me.
Can't you find something better to do than bother me?
No, because I really like to watch your face turn red. I'll bet you could use an extra strength laxative and a nap.
Yeah? And you could use a punch in the chops! Get out of my office!